and full consolidation and coordination between the United States and Israel. Now, there was a talk of, some negotiations going on, etc. But that was a facade because the distance between the positions of the United States on one side and Iran on the other was so big that there was never any likelihood of the talks yielding any result. And Trump was creating some sort of confusion by saying at times that, there are good results being achieved, and on the other hand saying, no, the Iranians are not agreeing and anything is possible, regime change, etc. So there was full preparation, and it was only a facade to carry out these negotiations. The fact is, both the Americans and the Israelis want a regime change. Now, I've served in Iran for 3 years. I know the city well. And these attacks have been carried out on civilian areas and areas which are of great importance to the Tehran regime. And the message is clear that we want this regime out. Now, will Iran capitulate? I don't think so. So for this reason, I'm afraid there is going to be an escalation. There is a possibility of attacks on the US military vessels which are deployed around Iran. And therefore, I am afraid that with one war taking place between Pakistan and Afghanistan, and now this huge escalation between the US and Israel on one side and Iran on the other, the entire region is going to be engulfed in a very dangerous situation.
Ambassador Dayal, stay with us. We also have Brahm Chilani, Strategic Affairs expert. Mr. Chilani, thank you so much for joining us here on CNN News 18. What is your initial assessment of these collaborative strikes that have taken place in Iran?
First is that they replicate the surprise element of last June when the Trump administration carried out the bombing of Iran's nuclear sites. The second element which stands out is that these strikes have occurred just hours after the Omani foreign minister announced, following the talks in Geneva, that Iran had agreed both to give up its nuclear ambitions permanently, and also to surrender its uranium stockpile. He went public. He's a key broker, has been a key mediator in the peace talks between the US and Iran from the very beginning, from the time they began in Oman. And the Omani foreign minister went public with these remarks because it was apparent to everyone that Trump will not accept yes from Iran, that having positioned his carrier groups to carry out strikes on Iran, that Trump will not accept even Iran's capitulation at the negotiating table. It was only a matter of time before he carried out these military strikes. It's also significant that these joint strikes by Israel and the US have occurred right after Modi's Israel visit. And I think striking Iran in the way they have struck was clearly an attempt to decapitate.
Yes. Stay with us, Mr. Chilani. I'll come back to you. Now we're getting some more update here. We're getting to learn from the reports that United States strikes against Iran are being carried out by air and sea. A US official told Reuters on this. So this is also a breaking update that we are getting, and in fact, US President Donald Trump confirmed the attack on Iran, and in fact, this is something which is coming out right now, that the attacks were carried out by air and sea. This is what the US official is confirming to Reuters on this attack in Iran. So from both sides, air and sea, that's what the United States is planning. Let me quickly go back to Brahm Chilani here. Mr. Chilani, this is the breaking update that we are getting, which is being confirmed by US officials to Reuters, that the attacks being carried out by air and sea.
I think the most significant element is something that you're not highlighting, which is that it was an attempted decapitation strike on Iran. The attempt was to kill the Ayatollah Khomeini as well as the president of Iran. So it was an attempt to decapitate Iran's leadership, which is why certain targets were chosen. And whether that attempt has been successful or not, we will know, because Iran was obviously prepared or preparing for such strikes by the US and by Israel. Nobody expected Israel to join hands with the US from the outset. The expectation was that Israel would come in once Iran would retaliate. But here, to the surprise of everyone, to all the analysts who were looking at the possible war scenarios, Israel joined hands with the US from the word go. And the fact that these strikes have happened right after Modi's visit, just after Modi has returned home, is also very significant.
Yes, stay with us, Mr. Chilani. Let me go back to Ambassador Dayal here. Ambassador Dayal, what are those focal points on which Iran was not agreeing and United States was stressing? Because we have seen the most recent talk that happened on 26th that has failed, and that's the reason probably we are seeing these strikes that are taking place right now.
You know, Mr. Brahmachalani very correctly pointed out that the Omani foreign minister had given hopes by saying that peace is within reach and that Iran has agreed to no nuclear material stockpile. However, the message which came from Trump was very different. Trump said he was not thrilled with the manner in which the talks had gone, and he said that this is not a good sign at all. And he said, well, he has not taken a decision whether to attack the country, but that was only a facade. He was planning very, very closely with Israel to go ahead with these attacks, and
overseas, and could soon reach the American homeland. Just imagine how emboldened this regime would be if they ever had and actually were armed with nuclear weapons as a means to deliver their message. For these reasons, the United States military is undertaking a massive and ongoing operation to prevent this very wicked, radical dictatorship from threatening America and our core national security interests. We are going to destroy their missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground. It will be totally, again, obliterated. We're going to annihilate their Navy. We're going to ensure that the region's terrorist proxies can no longer destabilize the region or the world and attack our forces and no longer use their IEDs or roadside bombs, as they are sometimes called, to so gravely wound and kill thousands and thousands of people, including many Americans. And we will ensure that Iran does not obtain a nuclear weapon. It's a very simple message. They will never have a nuclear weapon. This regime will soon learn that no one should challenge the strength and might of the United States Armed Forces. I built and rebuilt our military in my first administration, and there is no military on earth even close to its power, strength, or sophistication. My administration has taken every possible step to minimize the risk to U.S. personnel in the region. Even so, and I do not make this statement lightly, the Iranian regime seeks to kill. The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. That often happens in war. But we're doing this not for now. We're doing this for the future, and it is a noble mission. We pray for every service member as they selflessly risk their lives to ensure that Americans and our children will never be threatened by a nuclear-armed Iran. We ask God to protect all of our heroes in harm's way, and we trust that, with his help, the men and women of the armed forces will prevail. We have the greatest in the world, and they will prevail. To the members of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, the armed forces, and all of the police, I say tonight that you must lay down your weapons and have complete immunity, or, in the alternative, face certain death. So, lay down your arms. You will be treated fairly with total immunity, or you will face certain death. Finally, to the great, proud people of Iran, I say tonight that the hour of your freedom is at hand. Stay sheltered. Don't leave your home. It's very dangerous outside. Bombs will be dropping everywhere. When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take. This will be probably your only chance for generations. For many years, you have asked for America's help, but you never got it. No president was willing to do what I am willing to do tonight. Now you have a president who is giving you what you want. So let's see how you respond. America is backing you with overwhelming strength and devastating force. Now is the time to seize control of your destiny and to unleash the prosperous and glorious future that is close within your reach. This is the moment for action. Do not let it pass. May God bless the brave men and women of America's armed forces. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless you all. Thank you.
All right, there you heard United States President Donald Trump confirming there that United States forces have conducted this operation in Iran. There, let's quickly go to Sanjay Suri here, who is in Israel right now. Sanjay, United States President Donald Trump confirming this, that United States forces have conducted this attack, and he also reiterated what he's been saying and now put the ball in the courts of Iran, saying that lay down your arms and you will be treated fairly.
Well, this is very clear message, a bold message that this is going to be a war to the finish. The U.S. will not stop this operation together with Israel until there is regime change. So regime change certainly is the ultimate. The decapitation of the regime is the immediate aim. It is also the ultimate aim, and there will be no cessation of these hostilities short of that. That is the position of the U.S. and it is the position of Israel. The question now is that what Iran has that it can hit back with. Iran does have a very extensive and sophisticated enough missile arsenal, and whether these strikes have neutralized that to a considerable extent and whether Iran is left with enough to hit back with, that is the immediate tactical military question. This seems to be an attack at two levels. First, to hit at the regime, Khamenei, the IRGC, and to hit them hard. The idea is that if the leadership were to disappear or vanish or become so weak that it ceases to carry any conviction or any force at all, then the operative fallout and the extension of that could well be that a lot within the IRGC choose not to fight, and Trump has given them both an invitation, a temptation, and a warning that they must surrender. So that if there were to be surrender in the face of this assault and the threat of more, then the missile arsenal of Iran could be politically neutralized to an extent. To the extent it is not. There are thousands of missiles in place, scattered around the country, and the military force and the military leaders of Iran will certainly need to use them. Now is the time to do it, and they will certainly want to hit back, whether they have the means to, or if there is a vacuum at the top, whether then they will have the wish to. This is now the question.
Just stay with us, Sanjay. We also have CNN News 18's Anand Narasimhan here. Anand will be, of course, taking it forward from here. Anand, United States President Donald Trump is just confirming that his forces have conducted these strikes.
Yes, it is. And Israel has already called it Operation Lion's Roar. Thank you for that, Arun. Professor Brahmachalani is also with us. We'll also go across to our other guests who are joining us on the broadcast. But viewers, we are breaking format to get you what has happened or what is currently happening in that region. Iran is under an all-out attack, even as the Israelis have mounted a massive string of cyber attacks trying to bring down critical Iranian systems. The American Navy is using its full might and force. Just an update that we will start with. The Embassy of India in Jordan has actually tweeted and said that in view of the prevailing regional situation, All Indian nationals and tourists in Jordan are advised to exercise utmost caution, stay safe and follow advisories issued by local authorities diligently. All Indian tourists in Jordan are further advised to leave the country immediately before the operations of commercial flights get disrupted in case of any exigency. In fact, if you were to check flight radar, and we'll try and show you here from our news pit in a bit, that the entire airspace is clearing out. The moment Iran said that they were closing the airspace at least until Thursday next, and that entire region, and the huge assault across multiple locations in Iran by the American military. Trump is on an all-out aggressive mode. What he's saying is that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. To safeguard America is what he's saying, and its people and this region. Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. We are going to decimate their navy, is what he's saying. They are a vicious group of hard, terrible people, and I'm quoting President Donald Trump here. Its menacing activities directly endanger the U.S., our troops, our bases overseas, and our allies throughout the world. Trump has further said that the U.S. attack on Iran could result in the deaths of U.S. personnel and cause casualties, saying that often happens in war. When he was asked of the repercussions, he said when you go into war, you have to game losses, you have to be able to absorb a few losses, but it's for the greater good. Trump further saying, and I'm reading this out, we are going to destroy their missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground. It will be totally, again, obliterated. We are going to annihilate their navy. Just a short time ago, Trump has further said the military operation in Iran began. Our goals are to protect the American people and eliminating immediate threats from the Iranian regime. Terrible and malicious people. Iran must not have nuclear weapons. Never. This regime will learn that it must not challenge American military power. And then Trump has told the IRGC to lay down their arms, saying they will be treated fairly and with total immunity or face certain death. Now there is also another update coming through that there are fighter jets dominating on the skies of Tehran. Mossad has appealed to Iranian citizens following the attack. We are with you. Together we will return Iran to its days of glory. Keep yourself safe. Trump has further said, when we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take. This will probably be your only chance for generations. So this is the message to the Iranians, the common people. So somewhere trying to draw the line by saying we are not against all of Iran. We are against the current regime led by the Ayatollah Khomeini, and also we are against the IRGC. Brahmachalani ji, how do you view this? Because there is a certain level of politics that's already developed closer home. Pawan Khera has just tweeted saying, look, Modi's friend has attacked Bharat's old friend Iran less than 48 hours after the Prime Minister left Tel Aviv and touched down in Bharat. Brahmaji.
As you know, Anand, that Trump in his second term has carried out a series of military interventions. He has bombed more countries in the very first year of his second term than Joe Biden did in his entire 4-year term. But this renewed strikes on Iran, just 8 months after he claimed publicly that his bombing of Iran's nuclear sites had completely obliterated Iran's nuclear capability. He, in fact, posted on social media that not only had Iran's nuclear capability been completely obliterated, that it would take years for Iran to rebuild that capability. Now, within 8 months, his goalposts have shifted. He's now talking about freedom. This is the usual tactic with the US. Whenever it intervenes in any country, under any administration that has spoken about freedom, freedom is only a facade for intervening in another country's affairs. But let's pose a very basic question. Pakistan has nuclear weapons. Pakistan is building ICBMs according to American intelligence. In other words, Pakistan is building a missile capability that can strike the United States. And as US governments have admitted in the past, Pakistan has been involved in nurturing terrorist groups. In fact, there was a Pakistan link to 9/11. The key masterminds like Sheikh Khalid were found in Pakistan. Osama bin Laden was ultimately found in Pakistan. Yet the American administration, today's administration, is not concerned about Pakistan. It's actually mollycoddling Pakistan while claiming that Iran poses an existential threat to the US. As the New York Times yesterday pointed out in a detailed front page article, that all the three basic claims that Trump has laid out as to why Iran needs to be attacked, all those three key elements are based on falsehood. Now, the more fundamental question is this, that if this operation against Iran doesn't go well, it will not only mar Trump's presidency, it will actually stem his impulsionist, his interventionist impulse. He's been, as I said, on a spree of military actions. He has redefined peace. Peace no longer is the absence of war. Peace, according to him, is what arises from employing overwhelming force against targets that you choose. So he has blurred the line between war and peace. And the kinds of military interventions he has carried out, he has felt emboldened by success of these operations, especially the one in Venezuela, the way he managed to bring about regime change in Caracas. All that has emboldened him. Now, if this operation against Iran were to backfire on Trump, that will completely blemish his presidency and basically tie his hands for the rest of his second term.
Well, but one would assume that he has gamed that, and the fact that he delayed it for such a long time to trying to avoid it was perhaps fruit of or somewhere proof of the fact that he wanted Iran to toe the line. There are others who believe, Ambassador Prabhu is with us, Ambassador Prabhu, there are others who believe that Trump has decided to try and... Sanjay Suri is also with us. Sanjay Suri, in Israel, are there any alarm bells ringing, any sirens that are blowing? What is the message around in Israel? You're down on ground, even as Israel has joined operations and called it Operation Lion's Roar. And we are given to understand the Israelis have started with the other arm of war, craft of war, where they've attacked the installations via a massive round of layers and waves of cyber attacks across all Iranian installations, critical installations.
Well, in Israel, we've had warnings and by way of a siren going off, and there have been alerts issued to everybody in Israel through the Homefront app, and people have been told to stay alert, stay close to a shelter. This is an alert, a warning that's gone out. There are no visible and immediate signs of any panic. There are unlikely to be any. Israelis are very strong as a nation. They hold their nerve in the face of such a situation, and not least because just about every Jewish Israeli is trained in combat. People are not just familiar with military routines, they have been a part of these routines. And so this is a combat situation that Israel has long lived with, long prepared for, and long trained in. So the surface calm that you see is not just a matter of pretense. There is a very genuine sense that people will hold their nerve and are determined for Israel to see it through, to serve Israeli ultimate interests as they see it. And those interests will have to be, for a start, not just the nuclear issue that Trump has been speaking more of, but within Israel, the immediate threat is the ballistic missiles from Iran. And if those have to be neutralized, then this operation certainly has to be taken through to the finish. And the prevailing view here appears to be that it's about time this was done, and now that it's begun, it has to be carried out through to the end, that there must be a complete destruction of the ballistic missile arsenal of Iran. There must be regime change, and there need to be moves to encourage protesters to take over their government. and that this attack could be a sign of encouragement for them to do so, while it also seeks to weaken the government and the IRGC from within.
True. Sanjay, you are above, you're outdoors. Is life as usual in Israel, or have people been advised to stay indoors? And hope you also have a spot safe around, and you've been told if the sirens go up, where you need to go, which shelter to take.
Well, by way of an alarm, Anand, you see right behind me a minute back, people were playing beach volleyball. On the beach here, there are people surfing. So that is how alarmed a lot of Israeli people are. But that is not to say that they are watchful. People will not take silly chances out of any sense of false bravado. Right here to my right is a bomb shelter. It's an extensive bomb shelter, 4 floors below the surface, and that is where people have been asked to go to in case there is a warning. And there are people have told that they will have 90 seconds in which to get to a shelter. So people are watchful. They're going about things, but they know where their shelters are. They've seen them. They've familiarized them with these places, themselves with these places for a long time now. Everyone has the app that will guide them. So there is a system of precaution in place, and for people to respond very quickly. So should the alarm go off, should the siren sound, people will know what to do. Short of that, there is no immediate sign of panic on the streets yet, and people are just going about quite calmly. Israelis do recognize that this is not a new situation. They have faced and lived with the threats and in a warlike situation almost ever since the existence of Israel from the late 1940s. So this is going to be a real test now. This is going to be a real challenge. This is going to be different, and very soon we'll know whether Iran hits back and what it can hit back with, and crucially, for how long. Because in the last 12-day war in June of last year, to begin with, Iranian missiles were neutralized by Israel and the US together. But as the fighting continued, Iran managed to penetrate the defenses in Israel more and more. Iran has recourse to what it considers swarm tactics, where it seeks to overwhelm with numbers. So these are strategies and scenarios we're looking at down the line.
Right. We've just got an update. Russian Ministry of Transport has said that Russian air carriers have suspended flights to both Iran and Israel. So it's open conflict. Everybody taking certain measures, cover measures. We'll try and see if we can get Ambassador Prabhu Dayal also to join us on the coverage. Brahmachalani is with us. We have more updates, viewers. Exiled Iranian Prince Reza Pahlavi has urged Iranians today, just a short while ago, to prepare to return to the streets as the Islamic Republic collapses, and called on the country's military, police and security forces to break with the clerical establishment and join with what he described as a push for a stable and secure transition. Now, this message that was addressed to Iranians, Reza Pahlavi has said it's time to resume protests because the end of the regime was near. He urged people to stay home, remain calm, and be ready to mobilize when he gives what he said would be precise instructions. So clearly, it's a multi-pronged strategy, which we knew, Brahmaji, when we discussed last, that they will have to put in place to topple the 47-year-long regime led by the Ayatollah. Somewhere the focus is to topple this regime, a regime change to another regime which will be more pliable, perhaps docile, and would listen to the American terms. That's what they are trying to engineer here, and they cannot allow this to stretch beyond a certain limit, because otherwise this entire momentum will be lost. So one is cripple their installations via cyber attacks. 2, bombard them via huge military attacks. 3, create street unrest. 4, try and break the security stranglehold or perhaps the organizational stranglehold. And 5th will be the economical pressure, because all their oil exports, crudes are gone, the coffers are now dry, and Iran can't wage a long war. Their entire ballistic missiles, if they are neutralized in the silos itself, Brahmaji, what does Iran have as an option but to accept a regime change and the unseating of the clerical establishment?
And regime change in Iran is going to be a Herculean mission. If that's a mission that Trump has sought to achieve, then success is going to be quite elusive. The reasons are simple. Iran is not a soft state. Unlike the states that he has attacked, he has bombed in the last 13, 14 months, Iran is a very different state. Second, the Israelis and the Americans did try the street protest method to topple the regime in Tehran. They were behind. They were behind the recent wave of protests in Tehran. That led to thousands of deaths. The fact that those outside Iran sought to engineer a mass rebellion against the regime, unconcerned about how many thousands of people may perish in that rebellion. And yet, those mass protests were crushed ultimately. But I think there's a more important geographic fact that we have to keep in mind. You know how terrible George W. Bush's Iraq invasion went, the occupation of Iraq, backfired on the US. It ultimately created such strong public opinion against foreign interventions that the Americans even now talk about the disaster of Iraq. And we should not forget that Iran is 6 times bigger than Iraq, 6 times bigger than Iraq. Or take the 20-year US military intervention in Afghanistan. If you put Iraq and Afghanistan together in terms of size, Iran is double the size of Iraq and Afghanistan put together. Regime change in Iran is going to be a very uphill task. I don't think the Americans will be able to accomplish that. This puppet son of the late Shah of Iran, he carries little credibility in Iran. He can make any statements that he wishes from the safe comforts of his home in the West. The fact is that in Iran, as long as a large body of public opinion does not want foreign intervention in the internal affairs of Iran, the regime will not be toppled. They may kill the president, they may kill others, but there'll be replacements. It's easy to replace military commanders as well as political leaders. The reason why Hamas is still alive and still a fighting force in Gaza is that Israeli strikes that have decapitated Hamas repeatedly, killing one chief after another, one major commander after another, is that the lesson from that is that commanders and even the chief of a militant organization is easily replaceable. So let's take the worst case scenario that they manage to kill Ayatollah Khomeini and the president of Iran, or they kill top military commanders in Iran. That would not bring about Iran's capitulation on the battlefield. Iran has prepared for decapitation scenarios. The very fact that today Israel and the US joined hands to carry out attempted decapitation of Iran, of Iran's leadership, both spiritual leadership as well as political leadership. And probably they may have even struck military targets to take out command and control structure. Iran must have prepared for this scenario.
True.
And I think Iran has shown from last summer's fighting that it is resilient. It's able to manage to...
Both the Israelis and the Americans have now carried out many strikes in Iran, in different parts of Iran. So we know that Isfahan has been struck. We don't quite know exactly where, but as you know, there is a nuclear facility in Isfahan. Qom, which is the spiritual center of Iran, has been struck. Tehran, a number of sites in Tehran, and there are, of course, some other locations that might be of military importance that have been struck. So first, your initial thoughts about why suddenly, when we were least expecting it, the US and Israel have conducted these strikes. We were expecting these to happen in a few days. There have been talks with the Iranian regime over the last 2 days. And Trump seemed to suggest that he was willing to give a little bit of time, though his patience was running short. So the timing, the exact moment of choosing, and the fact that they are being called preemptive strikes, what does this mean?
Thank you very much for inviting me, and it's nice to be with you. The moment is, of course, a little bit, well, let's say, unopportune for me because I'm currently cut off from my sources, so I don't have all the details. But when you ask me why now and why the USA attacked after all, I understand it in only one fashion, which is Israeli pressure. Israelis want to establish themselves as the ultimate power of the Middle East in position of military and economic hegemony over the entire area. And Iran is the last instance capable of offering them serious military resistance and doing that obviously publicly. And they have to overpower this capability on one side. On the other side, they want a revenge for the last year because in June they have suffered quite a lot of damage, while on the other hand not achieving what they wanted to achieve. So now they are trying to achieve what they failed to achieve the last year in June. And well, the US administration, whether it is Trump or even if Joe Biden would still be a president or Kamala Harris, wouldn't do much more but what the Israelis want them to do. It is not for nothing that Trump has recently donated the keys to the White House to Prime Minister Netanyahu. So this is my point of view of why and how.
So you said that there is unfinished business, so to speak. What is this unfinished business? Because we're also just hearing that the first wave of Iranian ballistic missiles have been launched towards Israel. This is according to Israeli media. And sirens have been sounded across northern Israel amid an Iranian ballistic missile attack. This is all coming out of the Israeli media. The Israeli military says air defense systems are working to intercept the missiles. They're talking about the Iron Dome. We'll talk about the Iranian response in just a few moments, but you said unfinished business. What exactly is the unfinished business?
Precisely destroying, for example, the Iranian ballistic missile arsenal. That means that Israelis this time hope they can overcome the Iranian air defense system, of which there are actually two. Firstly, to destroy this system because they've largely failed to neutralize it last year. And secondly, through destroying this air defense system, to destroy the underground facilities where Iranian ballistic missiles are stockpiled, where they are safeguarded, so that Iran has no ability anymore to shoot, to fire, to launch missiles at Israel. So this would be one of primary issues with Israeli attempt to finish the business. The other aspect would be to completely destroy or complete the destruction of Iranian nuclear facilities, because even this was incomplete. Why? Because Israeli Air Force simply does not have the same firepower like the US air power in terms of particularly this bunker buster bombs, which can go really very deep, more than 50 meters deep into the mountains or underground or whatever, in order to destroy heavily fortified, deeply underground facilities. So these are two aspects where they would like to finish the business. Why? In order to disable Iran or to neutralize Iranian ability to, from their point of view, threaten Israel again. Because for Israel, it is absolutely unacceptable that they have to negotiate with anybody as equal. They consider themselves superior to everybody, whether to Westerners or to anybody else, especially to Iranians. Correspondingly, they have to be in a superior position vis-à-vis Iranians. And for this purpose, they have to neutralize all the capabilities Iranians have, which might, in one way or the other, threaten them.
So what would it take to degrade Iranian nuclear facilities or ballistic facilities, especially ballistic missile capabilities, rather? What would it take to neutralize? Because we're talking about seriously reinforced bunkers, which are, I don't know how many feet. You probably have a greater assessment. Can the Americans actually degrade Iranian capacity?
The Americans and Israelis can probably have at least heavily damage, if not destroy, most of underground bases for ballistic missiles in Iran. And that is the point. Last year, Israelis have tried several times, but it turned out that they can't. What happened was that they have hit most of Iranian underground missile bases several times, but not one of their weapons has penetrated actually the installation, came through and destroyed the installation inside. So what they did instead was to start targeting the entrances. What happened? The Iranians were reacting quickly and clearing the entrances, moving their launchers out of them, erecting the missiles, firing them, and withdrawing inside the facility. And then the Israelis would bomb the entrance again. And then the entire exercise would have been repeated again and again and again. In case of some of bases in western Iran, in northwestern Iran, there was such facilities were hit 15, 20 and more times, and nothing happened. They remained operational because not one of the weapons has penetrated the actual facility under the hill. Moreover, the Israelis were lacking the range to hit facilities in central and eastern Iran, which then in turn meant that Iran remained capable of firing its heaviest missiles, like Khorramshahr, from central and eastern Iran without any kind of interruption from the Israelis. On the contrary, even the US intelligence had a problem with tracking all of such operations. And this was causing the biggest damage in Israel last year in June. So probably now they are sharing the targeting in Iran in such a fashion that Americans are trying to hit precisely such bases in central and eastern Iran, and the Israelis are trying to hit targets in western Iran up to Tehran, let's say. This is probably the share of duties these days.
So let me just show you this map. This is a map that we're seeing. And in this map, you can see the number of sirens that have gone off across Israel. So Israel is a small geography. How exposed is it to Iranian capacities?
Very exposed. The total area doesn't mean much. The question is how many of installations the Iranians want to hit. Excuse me. And in this regard, there are specific bases inside Israel which Iranians are regularly targeting or have targeted the last 2 years, once in October 24 and then again in June last year. And essentially it turned out that Israelis have no 100% defense against anything.
So are you saying the Iron Dome is not 100% secure?
Firstly, on one side, it is a little bit different. It is perfectly secure if it is about an operation which is lasting 1, 2, 3, 4 days. After that, Israelis that is what happened last year. The Israelis ran out of missiles, of so-called interceptors, weapons they fire in order to intercept Iranian ballistic missiles. They ran out of missiles, and that was that. Then the Americans had to bring their warships in front of the Israeli coast, deploy them over there, and shoot at Iranian incoming ballistic missiles. And even that was not enough. So they both exhausted their stocks of anti-ballistic missile systems. And in the final days of the war, Iranians were able to strike almost at will. Israelis would never admit it, of course, which is why now they are so vengeful. They want kind of revenge for what happened last year. Whether they have managed to replenish their stocks within 1 year, I have my doubts about this, but we are going to see.
So when you said that the Iranians were striking at will,
yes,
and the Israelis will not admit it, how do we know that this was happening? Was there OSINT or was there other form of...
It's primarily OSINT. It's very easy to collect because Israel is a small country And there were plenty of people who were ready to risk their safety because Israelis were promptly arresting anybody releasing such videos, releasing videos showing military bases that were hit, for example, on the Golan Heights. Also, not to talk about Haifa area, Tel Aviv area, Beersheba area. Nevatim was hit by dozens of Iranian projectiles, and this was captured on the video. So in this regards, there is absolutely no doubt that Israeli military facilities have been hit, and not just once, not 2 times, but dozens of times. And that at the same time, Israeli government and armed forces were claiming they're intercepting over 90% of incoming Iranian missiles. On the other hand, there was, for example, Israeli government used to have a website where every Israeli citizen had the right to claim or to report damage caused by Iranian missiles and to claim payments from the government to repair this damage. And the damage, the longer the war went on last year, the more damage were the citizens claiming, and eventually Israeli government had to shut down this website because it was obvious that this is going into billions and billions and billions, and there is no end. There were thousands of claims for damage caused by Iran. Mm-hmm. Just how much damage were they suffering from Iranian missiles? Because even if Israel is so densely packed, they have their military facilities in the middle of urban centers. So even if Iranians were actually targeting military facilities, whether due to Iranian targeting or due to Israeli missiles intercepting incoming missiles, and then the wreckage falling down to the ground, there was a growing amount of damage, and this was continuously increasing with every single day. And before soon it became very damaging for Israel.
So we have a statement from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He says, "My brothers and sisters, citizens of Israel, just an hour ago, Israel and the USA launched an operation to remove the existential threat posed by the terror regime in Iran," as you were saying. "I thank our great friend President Donald Trump for this historic leadership. For 47 years, the Ayatollah regime has been shouting death to Israel, death to America. It has spilled our blood, murdered many Americans, and massacred its own people. This murderous terror regime must not be armed with nuclear weapons that would allow it to threaten all humanity. Our joint action will create the conditions for the brave Iranian people to take their fate into their own hands. The time has come for all parts of the Iranian people, Persians, Kurds, Azeris, Baluchis, and Ahwazis, to cast off the yoke of tyranny and bring about a free and peace-loving Iran." The hope, Mr. Cooper, that the Americans and the Israelis have is that the people will rise up and overthrow the theocratic regime in Iran. Is this possible, or is it too diffused?
Well, I consider this a pipe dream. I know lots of Iranians. I know how disorganized the opposition is. I know how clueless and not following any kind of advice the opposition is. I know how well organized the regime is. I know how they they're preparing themselves for this kind of eventuality since 2003, since the US-led invasion of Iraq. When one is monitoring at least the elections in Iran, then one knows that there are at least 15 to 17 million of Iranians who are supporting, who are believing in this Islamic Republic. So at best, what can be achieved in this fashion would be a civil war in Iran.
Okay.
There is certainly no outlooks for quick regime change or something of that kind, because the IGC as such is controlling the economy. It is controlling the banking sector, it is controlling the insurance sector, it is controlling the real estate sector, telecommunications, oil industry, defense sector. So whatever matters is controlled by IGC. And the IGC people know if the regime falls, they are falling with it.
Oh, so they could, when they're pushed to the wall, they could react unpredictably. In what way can they react? Because if you read what Prime Minister Netanyahu has just said, he's also asked the Israeli people to show some courage and patience. He says, together we will stand, together we will fight, and together we will ensure the eternity of Israel. I call on you, citizens of Israel, to heed the Home Front Command's instructions. In the coming days during Operation Roar of the Lion, we will all be required to show endurance and strength of spirit. So clearly they are expecting the Iranians to hit back, and we are getting reports from Iranian media that 30 to 75 missiles are coming out of Iran right now to Israel. So what kind of missiles would these be? And do the Iranians have the capacity to go up the escalation ladder? And do they have a nuclear weapon, even if it's a dirty bomb?
Let's start with the start. The question of nuclear weapon in Iran. Crazy Grand Ayatollah Khamenei, the leader of the Islamic Revolution, the strongman in Tehran, has issued this nuclear fatwa in 2006, which is prohibiting Iran from possessing an intact or assembled nuclear weapon. There are lots of interpretations of this situation. Mine is that this means that he is prohibiting the IGC from actually assembling a weapon. But this does not mean that they do not have all the elements necessary to make a nuclear weapon. But he's unlikely to order the IGC to now recall this fatwa, issue a new one, and order the IGC to this is the way I understand, order the IGC to launch a nuclear weapon. There is no reason to do so, except Israel would deploy a nuclear weapon against Iran. It is the first thing. The second thing, you ask what kind of weaponry they have. They have something like 4 or 5 different families of ballistic missiles. Each is more modern and or heavier or faster, which they can target Israel from different parts of Iran. Some of them are shorter ranged, which means they have to deploy them from proximity to the border to Iraq, relatively close to Israel. And others have a range of 2,000 kilometers, which means they can deploy them from central Iran or eastern Iran, which means outside of the reach of Israel, which is why it's so important for Israelis that now Americans are involved. So their air force is going to target Iranian ballistic missile bases in that part of the country. So they have shown, for example, in June last year, that they are capable of combining such weaponry, heavier and lighter weaponry, but also faster weaponry. Because some of their latest missiles, they have re-entry vehicles which are coming down at hypersonic speeds. So they first shoot older and less sophisticated missiles to busy the Israeli and the American air defenses, to force them to spend their interceptors into intercepting all of the warheads coming down, all the wreckage coming down, because most of computers nowadays, fire control computers, cannot really properly recognize what is a warhead and what is a wreckage of some missile that was already hit.
Wow.
The problem is it's coming down in direction of threatened area. It has to be shot down. So it's a battle of numbers as well. Iranians shoot, for example, 20 missiles. Each missile is carrying, depending on the type, between 3 and 6 warheads. That means per missile, plus there is a body of the missile coming down. That means per missile you have to launch at least double the number of interceptors. So now, as this attack is going on with all the weaponry of this kind, you launch subsequently, a few minutes later, faster but lighter missiles from shorter range, which have higher speed, whose re-entry vehicles are coming down at higher speed. And then what happened, we have seen this last year, Israelis are shooting like crazy at all the possible warheads which are coming down, and all of a sudden there's coming something super fast and boom, and it hits. Why? Because the Israelis are so busy with protecting themselves from earlier or heavier or older and less sophisticated weapons that they never had the time to detect on time and to intercept this fast-coming missile. So something is going to get through.
What is the reaction time between Iran and Israel? So hypersonic missiles coming from Iran to Israel, how much time do you get?
It's Essentially, it depends on what kind of weaponry are you shooting at them. There's, for example, standard SM-6, which are intercepting ballistic missiles at very high altitude, something like 150 kilometers. This takes at least 2 minutes for this missile to reach, to intercept the missile already at a high apogee. And then there are other missiles which have shorter range. Here we are talking about seconds, actually, perhaps dozens of seconds, 15, 20 seconds at most. It is really very, very short reaction time, or actually time, which the air defenses have to defend or to activate themselves and act against such an attack. It's very little time.
So, and the hypersonic missiles condense that?
Even less, yes.
And that's why we saw, I think if I'm not mistaken, the quarters of the intelligence agency being struck or somewhere close to that was hit in Israel.
Yes, headquarters of Mossad and of Unit 8200, which is one of the major military intelligence agencies in Israel.
So how does this play out now? Because from what we were told by the Israelis and by the Americans, and Mr. Trump himself made that claim, that in the last iteration of the conflict, they had been able to dominate the air completely using all sorts of missiles as well as airplanes. And they had said that they had degraded all of the Iranian radar systems or air defense systems.
Yeah.
And there was air domination and Iran was for the taking, but we have pulled back to give them a chance.
Yeah.
Is that did that happen, number one? And is that going to be the strategy or the philosophy again?
Well, of course, it's going to be a strategy again. Because in modern warfare, the first thing you do is to establish air superiority. But it didn't happen last year.
It didn't happen?
It didn't happen, no. What happened was the following. The Israeli Air Force has declared itself, after just 2 days or something, as in possession of total air.
אחיי ואחיותיי, אזרחי ישראל, לפני שעה קלה יצאו ישראל וארצות הברית למערכה משותפת, מבצע שאגת הארי. מטרת המבצע, לשים קץ לאיום ממשטר האייתולות באיראן. בשעה זו תוקף צה"ל מטרות של משטר הדיכוי, מתקנים של משמרות המהפכה והבסיס, ויחד עם צבא ארצות הברית, אתרי טילים בליסטיים שמאיימים הן על ישראל והן על כוחות ארצות הברית. מבצע זה יימשך ככל הדרוש. במשך 47 שנים קרא משטר הרשע באיראן מוות לישראל, מוות לאמריקה. הוא רמס את אזרחי ארצו. הוא הטיל מורא על עמי האזור. הוא פרס רשת טרור מסועפת בעולם כולו. הוא השקיע משאבים עצומים לפתח פצצות אטום ועשרות אלפי טילים שנועדו, כפי שהוא הגדיר את זה, למחוק את ישראל ממפת העולם. הוא חימש גם את שלוחות הטרור סביבנו, בעזה, בלבנון, בסוריה, בעיראק, בתימן, ביהודה ושומרון.
So that was the Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who has appealed to all Iranians to come together, and he's called this the fight to remove a regime that always claimed death to Jews, death to Israel, and death to America. Now, America has called this Operation Epic Fury. Israel has called it Operation Lion's Roll. Iran has called the retaliation as Fateh Khaybar. Let's go across to Sanjay Suri joining us live, even as Israel has claimed to intercept one of the ballistic missiles sent their way by the Iranians. 30 to 75 ballistic missiles launched, according to Iranian media. Sanjay, what's the scenario? Have you seen the sirens go off? Yes, Sanjay. Sanjay, can you hear me? We'll just try and connect with you. We're getting pictures and also claims by the Israeli Defense Forces that their defense array is ready to meet the missiles that have been launched from their silos by the Iranians. Now, there is a large security deployment in Tehran. Roads have been blocked around the Khamenei residence. Israel has come out and said Israel has the right to defend itself. One missile launched from Iran towards central Israel was intercepted by the air defenses. There are no immediate reports of injury. Additional rocket fire towards the state of Israel, this time toward the center of the country. Sirens are now activated at the center and also at Shepsala. There is a fresh map that's come. We try and put that out. It's a huge cluster all across central Israel. That's where the Iranian response is being currently targeted. We've got one of those images here. I can try and show it to our viewers on my phone. But right now, what we're given to understand is this is a huge cluster. The latest that's come in on the news reports, just showing it to our viewers. You can see Sanjay Suri is with us. Sanjay, even as we are looking at a huge burst of alarms coming through, central Israel is currently being captured or being targeted. Yes, Sanjay. I'm going to reduce the brightness on my screen and try and go to Sanjay Suri.
We had the alarm going, we had a pre-alarm, and now we've had the siren going, and everyone's been asked to get to a shelter within 90 seconds. It's been more than that now. My friend here is right here with us. So why are you not inside a shelter?
It's too packed. It's too packed. Too many dogs, too many people, too many babies. So there's not a lot of space. And I'm waiting for it to be clear, what's going on.
Well, the shelter will be clear when the alarm goes away. The idea should be there, and it's not exactly a party time in a shelter, so there are going to be people there. But you'd rather stay outside than be in a shelter?
I'd rather be safe, also outside, and I'd rather this situation will be stopped against Israel. But I have to make sure that everybody understands doesn't kill us, make us stronger. So as much threats we're going to have on our survival only makes us stronger. So be careful, because we are very safe and we are a very strong country and a beautiful country. And I invite everybody to come to Israel, and this will end soon.
Well, they're not going to come while the sirens are sounding, to be sure. But do you think it's safe outside?
No, it's not safe. But, we are driving the bicycle. So, you have danger. It's not safe. I'm not saying you don't have to go to the shelter, but we weren't arranged for this situation now. We didn't know it's going to come. So I didn't know where to go. I'm a little bit confused of what's going on. I wasn't just celebrating a birthday in the beach, surfing, swimming. So everything is a little bit complicated. But we'll make sure it's going to go soon, and we'll be safe again.
Finally, you think Israelis will stay strong and hold on to their nerve in the face of these threats? Because as we are speaking, we are told that a number of missiles are on their way to Tel Aviv, right here where we are.
Yeah, I promise you, Israel will stand here stronger than any country on earth for life. Israel will never go anywhere. How many years they're trying to destroy us? We are the clever, the sharper, and the flawless country on earth, and we go nowhere. And I invite all the Jewish on earth to come to Israel, take a land, start to swim, and have a good time.
Excellent, and I'm sure it'll be good times soon again past all this. So that is a glimpse of the kind of confidence and the strength that you see all around in Israel. And it's not just my friend here, it's just about everyone. There is a real threat. The missiles are en route towards us as we speak. We are outdoors, as are a number of people, and they're holding calm, they're holding on to their nerve.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, my friend.
Thank you.
Well, Sanjay, stay safe, and great to see the spirit of the people of Israel, even as now there is confirmation there is a total internet disruption. So a wave of cyber attacks mounted by the Israelis is affecting Iran, although reports are trickling in from Iran. But there is internet outage and there is confirmation that's coming. Sirens have now sounded in Jerusalem and the surrounding area following a launch of ballistic missiles from Iran. There are statements coming in from Shahrazad Pahlavi, Mike Huckabee, the ambassador to Israel, U.S. ambassador to Israel, There is also politics that's developing closer home, where they're saying Prime Minister Modi just 48 hours ago was hugging the man who's now claiming that he is going to attack Iran, which is also civilizationally an old friend of India. So we'll keep that politics aside for the bit, because this is a fast, rapid developing situation. The Israelis have called it Operation Lion's Roar. The Americans have called it Operation Epic Fury. The Iranians in response are saying this is Fateh Khabar. That's the launch of ballistic missiles. Ambassador Pinak Ranjan Chakravarti is with us. Rajiv Kochar, the General Rajiv Kochar is with us. Let me just go across to Ambassador Pinak Ranjan Chakravarti. Namaste, sir. Thank you for your time. Namaste, gentlemen. Let me ask you, the Iranians are saying we will fight to the hilt. We will not let go. The Americans have come out and said our aim is regime change. The clerical hold over Iran's government has to go. Will that happen, Ambassador Chakravarti?
Unlikely. I don't think that is going to happen so easily just by launching a few strikes. I mean, regime change is a long-term operation, not an overnight missile attack. And I don't think the Iranian people, although there are a lot of people in opposition to the Iranian regime, which has been called all kinds of things, and they have done all kinds of atrocities on their own people. They have, all kinds of misogynistic laws for the, targeting women. But yet, I think the people of Iran are going to may just rally around the regime. No one and least of all the Iranians, who are a very proud people, will just keep quiet and say, "Hey, look, let them attack us." So it all depends on what is the traction for regime change within the country. I mean, Mr. Trump may want it, but will it happen? My answer is that it is very unlikely.
But Zachary Cohen of CNN has actually reported that they've been told, him and his colleague have been told by very highly placed officials in the White House, that America is actually planning attacks for several days. It's not just a few hours, several days. And this comes as President Trump has described this as a massive operation. And Rajiv Kocharji, the build-up, the way it's been happening, they've taken their time, they've moved their resources, they've aligned it in a way, and it's a multi-pronged attack. They're going fully kinetic. It may be short, but little more than 12 days. And this time, with bulk of the weight carrying, shouldering of this entire kinetic move against Iran seems to be driven by the Americans and not Israel.
Thank you, Anand. I have first of all.
Ji, please go ahead.
Yeah, I can hear you very well. Can you hear me? Okay.
Ji, please go ahead.
Okay. Now,
yes, please.
The name is Rajan. So now, you see, I'll just tell you, I have a different perspective of this entire thing. America has prepared itself very well. No country amasses this kind of a military force to just finish the operation and go back, because America is not going back in a short while. And I see this operation lasting maybe a month if it is prolonged. What is the political aim here? Because any military commander would like to know the political aim before he launches the strike. And it's very, very clear here, Anand, that the political aim is regime change. And this is the first and the last opportunity America and Israel have to carry out a regime change. And though I have a sort of an opinion that regime change can only happen if you have boots on ground, but if you see how this scenario will paint itself, because if you do substantial damage to IRGC, because that is the stumbling block right now as far as America and Israel are concerned, because that is the only force which protects Khomeini and the political leadership. And if you are able to make a strong dent in the leadership by killing most of the leaders and rank and file, I think to a large extent you would be near the regime change. It is not going to be easy. I'm not saying that it's going to be easy, but it will take time. And at the same time, you are right now seeing the quantum of force being unleashed on Iran. And if this is the force level, which is going to continue every day, so a time will come when most of the military assets would have been destroyed. Most of the IRGC assets would have been destroyed, because don't forget that Mossad and CIA have got strong intelligence here. And in the last 12 days war, 20 military leaders were eliminated. So we see a similar kind of an action taking place here. And also the two aircraft carriers, I actually want to bring out this point. I tend to believe that one aircraft carrier has been specifically kept near Israel to give it an air defense umbrella. So these missile sites are the prime targets as far as Israel and America are concerned. They are going to destroy all the missile sites in Iran. This may take a couple of days. You will still find about 50, 60 missiles.
I'm just interrupting you because General Kochar, we come back to this conversation. See, there are blasts that have happened, or strikes that have happened across Tehran, Natanz, Isfahan, Kermanshah and Tabriz, across Iran, multiple locations. The significance, the importance of these locations and why they've been targeted. Meanwhile, there are sounds of huge explosions above Jerusalem. Jeremy Diamond of CNN joins us with a look live.
The United States and Israel are now both conducting strikes against Iran. We do not yet know the details of those strikes, but we now can confirm, according to two U.S. officials, that the United States is carrying out strikes against Iran. But we can now indeed confirm that the U.S. and Israel are jointly carrying out strikes against Iran, and these are believed to be major strikes, with one U.S. official telling me that this is not a small strike. That official specifying that because there had been some speculation in recent days that the United States might initially carry out a kind of small targeted strike in order to send a message to the Iranians to try and use that as a leverage point in diplomatic negotiations. But instead, it seems like what is taking place is the other scenario that had been considered, and that was one of the United States bringing its overwhelming air and naval firepower to bear over the Iranians. Now, the question is, what are the targets right now? Is the United States going for an all-out regime decapitation operation to try and kill the supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei? Is the United States and Israel, and we expect, as the Israelis have now warned the public here, that Iran will retaliate against the state of Israel with attacks including drones and also including those very powerful ballistic missiles. Keep in mind that the Iranians expected that Israel and the United States were preparing this attack. They appeared to be more prepared than they were when Israel launched strikes against Iran back in June. And so the window of time that it will take Iran to retaliate could be shorter than it was last time back in June. And we also expect that Iran could carry out more significant strikes, not just against Israel, but also against U.S. military assets in the region, of which there are a large number of U.S. military personnel and assets at various bases in the Middle East, both within striking range of those ballistic missiles, but also within striking range of some of those shorter range missiles, which Iran has in much larger supply.
Engineering a regime change and ensuring Iran can never ever have nuclear weapons, but they're also targeting their ballistic missile depots or perhaps the silos, because if you look at the way places where Iran has been targeted, it's all the nuclear centers, nuclear installations, and also where their missile storage facilities or manufacturing facilities are. Will they be able to hit the silos of the ballistic missiles, or the Iranians are far more smarter than the Americans think? We'll have to wait and watch. Meanwhile, Iran's Revolutionary guards have said in response to the aggression, the first wave of large-scale missile and drone strikes towards Israel have begun, while even as there are reports of sirens even over Jordan. Akanksha now joins us with more from the studio. Yes, Akanksha.
And it's important to also take our viewers through what this military operation by the United States is looking like. They have very strategically planned it out. I want to quickly take our viewers through all of those locations that have been attacked by the US and Israel. Remember, reports are indicating that this could very well be a US-Israel joint strike. First of all, we're looking at Tabriz. Why is this significant? Explosions, in fact, have taken place at the military bases. This is exactly the conversation Anand was having with our guest as well, who was highlighting that the IRGC at the moment is one huge stumbling block. And so, to target the military, the IRGC is also, as we all know, a part of the militia of Iran. It's important that they completely wipe out the IRGC at the moment if the US wants to establish its presence there. You also have Kermanshah. Now, why is Kermanshah so important? Because it hosts facilities to store the missiles. Remember, there's been a shifting of rationales when it comes to US President justifying the military action towards Iran. First, it was about the protesters. He said 32,000 of them have been killed. Secondly, he moved it to the nuclear program, Iran not coming to terms in terms of stopping that uranium enrichment. So there's, of course, a conscious effort being made to attack these storage facilities. They are storing the missiles. Then you're looking at Tehran, of course, the Iranian capital. Multiple locations have been hit. Not much needs to be said when any country is in fact attacked. What the mere symbolism of attacking the national capital is. This is an attack directly at the Khomeini regime. As we all know, the explosions took place near Khomeini's office as well. Natanz, it's a critical nuclear site. This too was attacked. Now, as we all know, this is also the same nuclear site where the attacks took place in the month of June, the memories of which are still very fresh. Remember, in that 12-day conflict that took place when US also participated along with Israel. You're also looking at Isfahan, another facility that is hosting Nuke Research Center. This too was targeted back in June. Now, you're seeing a repeat of these attacks because US intel reports have already indicated that Iran has not stopped enriching its uranium, and that, according to the US Trump administration, is only going to lead to more ballistic missiles being cultivated by Iran, which could very well be used against Americans. That's the justification, at least, that Donald Trump is giving. Over to Anand.
Thank you for that, Akanksha. We'll keep coming back to you. A lot of visual representations, videos are coming. We've got also a picture, Simran Babbar sharing this with us, that alerts are expected in a few minutes. Find the best protection around when receiving an alert. Enter the protected space until further notice. Now, this is an emergency alert text message that sounded on the phones of residents of Israel. We'll also try and see if Sanjay Suri is live with us, Ambassador Pinakaranjan Chakravarti and Major General Rajan Kochar with us. IRGC has just issued a statement in response to the aggression. The first wave of large-scale missile and drone strikes toward Israel has begun. Like we said, the further they have turned around and said that the attacks come in response to the hostile and criminal enemy's aggression against the Islamic Republic of Iran. In the past hour, several ballistic missiles have been launched from Iran at Israel with no immediate reports of injuries. That's what they're saying. Now, the Ministry of Interior in Bahrain has also said the siren has been sounded. Citizens and residents are urged to remain calm and head to the nearest safe place. Ambassador Pinakaranjan Chakravarti and Major General Kochar, this is another aspect. Iran had said that no other nation around us which has got American bases remain kosher. We will target where we feel we want to respond. And Iran has a huge cache of ballistic missiles. This cyber attack doesn't seem to have stopped. Iran seems to have actually gamed this possibility because they are still able to activate their silos, Ambassador Chakravarti. And they are now saying Jordan, Bahrain, wherever there are American bases, we'll target them.
Well, yes, that remains to be seen. They did threaten that they would target American bases, and there are several American bases in that area. I think you earlier showed a map showing all the American bases. This is doing the round of social media also. But it remains to be seen whether they will be able to attack or whether their missiles will actually get through to the American bases. Because let's not forget that there have been a lot of preparation for this action, and of course some missiles will get through. It's not no missile defense is 100% proof. So I think that's what Iran is going to try. But don't forget also that Iran's stock of missiles may be large, but how long will it last? Because I think Americans and the Israelis will last longer because they have much deeper pockets and much deeper sort of industrial power. So this is the point. And whether China and Russia will be flying in missiles, etc., also remains to be seen. That seems very unlikely now that the military action has started. So this is, I think this will unfold in a few days as to what is going to happen. And then only we can make a reassessment.
But does this now draw in all the Arab nations, Major General Kocher? And if a US asset is hit by an Iranian ballistic missile, does the NATO also then come into play? So all in all, does this then perhaps become far more for Iran to handle and the current regime to handle? The Americans seem to have planned this for the next few days. They are not in it just for a few hours, unlike the 12-day war.
You're absolutely right. You see, the Americans are in no hurry here because preparations for a long drawn war have been made, because when you make a preparation, you take into account inbuilt reserves of ammunition, missiles, and things like that. Somebody is also here. And with that Tomahawk missiles, which were used last time, we'll expect the similar kind of missiles being launched at Iran. And you mentioned about NATO, because I don't think it is too premature for us to come to that conclusion. And NATO may not be required, because the force level which the Americans have actually brought into this with them is sufficient to take care of this onslaught on Iran. And of course, Israel is also part of it. So I don't think in the present context we are going to see enlargement of the scope of this war in bringing the NATO countries. A second important aspect you mentioned about the Gulf countries and Muslim countries. See, they have to appeal to their own political basis. So you will find rhetoric, you will find statements trying to condemn the attack and things like that, trying to appeal to their own population, because all of them are basically Muslim and similar kind of ethnicity. Beyond that, they are not going to do anything concrete which is going to harm the American interests. Because if you remember, Saudi Arabia had made a statement that it will not allow its airspace to be used. But what happens if there is a strike of an American airbase in Saudi Arabia? So that doesn't leave any scope for Saudi Arabia to press that statement further. So I don't think the Gulf countries are going to openly support the Americans, but internally, yes, there would be an agreement to the Americans, because after all, their interests lie with the Americans and not with the Iranians.
Well, so, even as we speak, air sirens have gone off not just in Israel and various parts of central Israel, but also Jordan and Bahrain as well. So more nations are now being alert. They are red alert, especially around, because they are also trying to use their intelligence and game what Iran will try and do, because Iran will have to show a certain amount of retaliation. We'll try and see if we have Sanjay Suri live. He was just going across. The alerts and sirens have been sounded even where he is joining us, even though he remains outdoors. The Israelis are calm, but their belief is they don't want this attack on Israel, but they believe that out of this, Israel will come stronger than ever. You're not going to be able to wipe out Israel. And Benjamin Netanyahu has invoked this very sentiment, saying the regime that shouted death to Israel, it's time to end that regime. This regime change, 47 years they've